Oh, Democrats are upset. They're very, very upset.
Tonight, 8 Democrats voted with the Republicans to allow them to go forward on this continuing resolution. And to my mind, this was a very, very bad vote.
Looks like Democrats are caving to Donald Trump and the Republicans.
We have breaking news right now. Senators have reached a deal to reopen the federal government, with some suggesting that Democrats are caving.
Oh my God.
So it turns out that Chuck Schumer was indeed behind the Democrat plan to cave.
Hey everyone, I'm Lowry of National Review, and yes, they should be upset. They caused the longest shutdown in U.S. history, and they got zip for it. Zilch. Nada. They said this was all about healthcare. Now, what they did at the start of the shutdown, they spun the wheel, and a little bouncing ball landed on healthcare, and they decided it was going to be about healthcare, even though that wasn't really relevant to anything. They insisted they needed a permanent extension of Obamacare subsidies. These subsidies were not originally part of Obamacare. They were layered on top of the original law because the original law was spiraling healthcare costs so badly. The subsidies were a way to cushion that for most ordinary people, but they weren't part of the original law. They were passed first in 2021 temporarily under Joe Biden, and then again in 2022 under Joe Biden, with not one Republican vote either time. So this was a crazy demand, a demand that was made in bad faith, a demand that was never going to be met. And sure enough, the shutdown is ending. And what did they get? They got a guarantee of a vote in the Senate on extending Obamacare subsidies. They didn't get a guarantee that it's going to pass. They didn't get a guarantee that there'll also be a vote in the House. They didn't get a guarantee that President Trump will sign such an extension if it passes the House and the Senate, which it won't. So they got nothing. And they could have gotten that guarantee for a vote at any time during the standoff or before the standoff began. So why were they so desperate for a government shutdown? Because they hate and fear Donald Trump, and they wanted to do something, anything, to indicate their maximal opposition to the president of the United States. We've seen this kind of dynamic before.
I think we have to go all out. I think this situation absolutely requires a really futile and stupid gesture be done on somebody's part.
We're just the guys to do it.
Yes, they needed a stupid and futile gesture to convince their base that they're fiercely committed to fighting Donald Trump, to convince themselves how fiercely committed they were to fighting Donald Trump. But this never was going to go anywhere. The rule of shutdowns is if you're the party that's causing the shutdown, if you're opposing a so-called clean CR, a bill just to maintain current spending levels, you will be blamed for the shutdown and won't get anything that you're asking for. Now, they escaped the blame. Blame was kind of even or tilted kind of the Republican way, one, because the media is biased and gave the Democrats a lot of running room here, more than they ever did give Ted Cruz or Mike Lee when they were causing a shutdown. Two, people kind of expect Republicans as the anti-government party to be responsible for a shutdown. But certainly Democrats weren't winning politically on this, and certainly there wasn't going to be a wave of support coming in from the country such that they could force Republicans to do what they wanted to do on healthcare. This never was going to work. But another key element here was Chuck Schumer. Back earlier this year, Chuck Schumer had a chance to shut down the government. Chuck Schumer responsibly, understandably, didn't shut down the government, and he was hit with all sorts of attacks from his own side. Basically, every MSNBC viewer in the country was going out in their backyard and burning Chuck Schumer in effigy. He didn't want to make that mistake again, so he shut down the government.
The nays are 45. The 60-vote threshold having not been achieved, the the bill upon reconsideration is not passed.
Maybe they wouldn't be furious about not shutting down the government this time, but they would be furious when the government had to reopen, which was going to happen one way or the other. And predictably, here we are. The world is once again falling down on Chuck Schumer's head.
Chuck Schumer, the cowardly lion who we refer to as Chuckles, who again proved he is a terrible leader. He cannot meet the moment. He is impotent and he needs to step aside.
He's the most pathetic minority leader, and it's long past time for him to get the hell out of the way.
Millions of Americans are literally going to get kicked off health care, and we can't fight to make sure that their premiums don't go up after the Tuesday wins. It's just political malpractice.
Call your congresspeople, call your senators and tell them that Chuck Schumer can no longer be leader.
Yeah, I'm guessing one way or the other, this is Chuck Schumer's last term in the United States Senate. He's not so great at this. He's not a Mike Mansfield. He's no LBJ. He's not an Everett Dirksen. He's not a Mitch McConnell. He may not even be a Harry Reid, who is not a very good Senate leader for the Democrats. And he is looking so vulnerable to a primary challenge from his left now. He's like the wounded wildebeest out on the savannah, and AOC is the hungry lion looking at him, thinking about whether she wants to eat him for lunch or not. Maybe it's not her. Maybe it's someone else who challenges Schumer from the left, and she runs for president. Who knows? But one way or the other, this is the beginning of the end of Chuck Schumer. And it has to be a matter of great chagrin for him privately, because there's such a performative element to all of this. Democrats are complaining during the shutdown, oh, SNAP benefits are being interrupted, oh, flights are being delayed. But there was one way to stop all of that, which was to reopen the government. And a group of relatively, I emphasize the word relatively moderate Senate Democrats have now finally taken on the logic of that and have reopened the government. And the rest of the party has to pretend to feel betrayed and outraged by this privately. If they have any connection to reality, they knew the government had to reopen, and they're glad that their colleagues have gone and done it, but then they're giving them a drubbing in public, right? And this is part of the price of entry for Democratic presidential politics in 2028. You have to be out there posing that you're totally outraged by what's happened. We've seen it from Pete Buttigieg and Gavin Newsom. Hey, that's where Democratic politics is at the moment. Yes, this was, once again, a stupid and futile gesture, but there's more where that came from. Whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad, really, really mad at President Donald Trump. I'm Rich Lowry, over and out.